Umoridin oisa el nachal eson. The Mishnah said that the egel, the calf, is then brought down to a hard ravine. Eson kemashma'o. The word eson, as its simple translation indicates, kashet, hard. And as we've described, it's an unarable area, and that's where the Egla Rufa ceremony takes place. Tanu Rabbanan, minayin li eson shuhu kashet. From where do we know that the word eson means something hard, tough? Shenemar, the Gemara continues at the top of Amud Beis. The pasuk says, eson moshavecha v'sim b'sela kinecha. Without translating the pasuk word for word, we want to notice simply the juxtaposition of the word esan with the word sela. Sela is a rock. So you see that esan is associated with a rock, something hard. V'omer, another pasuk says, Shimu harem esriv Hashem v'esanim moistei oretz. And Rashi explains, you'll notice the Rashi on the top line in the Tosfos column. We mentioned before, Rashi occupies both columns. Moistei oretz. Mostei, a Mossad, is a foundation, and Mostei Oretz is Haim Harim. Those are the mountains. The Chol Har Shel Avonim Hu. Mountains are made of stone. So in this second pasuk, you see Esanim juxtaposed with Harim, which is a reference to, or Mostei Oretz, which is a reference to mountains which are stone. Hence, Esanim, something hard. Obviously, Esanim is the plural form of Esan. Achirim oimrim minayin le'eson shuhu yashan. This is a different approach. This approach says that eson is something that's old, and something. In other words, according to this approach, the Egla Rufa would take place at a spot that the earth was there from time immemorial, meaning not freshly brought dirt over there. So from where do we know that Eson means something old? Shneimar goy Eson hu goy me'olam hu. Me'olam means forever. It has been forever, meaning something very old. And in this pasuk you can see again Eson associated with me'olam hu, something that's always been there. Ve'orfen oisa bekupitz me'achorea. My taimo. What's the basis of concluding that when you see the word orphan, it means from its back? Gomar Arifa Mechata Sa'of. There's a Gzera Shava that tells me to learn Arifa of Egla Rufa from the laws of a bird sin offering. And the Rashi tells us on the fourth line from the top, Mechata Sa'of, Dichtiv Bo, in that context it says Mimul Orpo. And Mimul Orpo is telling me from the part of the head of the bird that is in back of its face, approximately. That would mean from the back. That's what the Mishnah said. Me achorel, from behind. Umakoma osur milizro milevad. The Mishnah says that the place that Egla Rufa takes place is forbidden for cultivation and for le'evad. Now the word le'evad we're not going to translate yet. We have to go further in the Gemara to appreciate that further. Bear in mind that the Mishnah itself continues to tell us that the place where the Egla Rufa is processed it's mutter to comb flax and to chisel stones there. So we have to try to understand what is meant by it being an usur, not only to plant things there, but umile'evad. Tono Rabbanon. Before actually we go on, let's just look at the side. We have a topic heading, the Nosay Nachal Eson, this hard ravine, L'chule Alma Osu Lizra Shom Be'asid. According to everybody, and we're going to see Machlokas Tanoim shortly, but according to all opinions, it is prohibited to, in the future, after Egla Rufa is done there, it is prohibited to cultivate it, that area. Number 2, Machlokes im Zoroi Shom Be'avar. Ha'im Roy L'mokom Arifa. What about a place that had been cultivated in the past? Does that disqualify it as a site suitable for Egla Rufa? We're going to see Rabbi Yoshia says it's fit, it's Roy, and Rabbi Yonasan says it's not Roy. Now the Gemara. Tonu Rabbanon, Asher lo ye'oved bo v'lo yizoreah. Lishe'ovar, Divrei Rabbi Yoshia. The Pasuk is describing something that in the past, Rabbi Yonasan Omer lehaba. The Pasuk is referring to the future. Rova Omar lahaba dekuli amo lo pligi. As far as the future is concerned, everyone agrees that it's prohibited to cultivate it. The area in which a egg lover was processed, dichtiv velo yizoreah. That is, let's say, clearly a reference to future prohibition. Ki pligi l'shavar. The machlokas concerns the grammatical implications with regard to the past. Rabbi Yoshia Savar. Rabbi Yoshia, who says that, I have to just correct what we said in our introduction. We just have to correct. Rabbi Yoshia says that it's not fit, that it's not roy if it was used in the past, and he says that miksiv. Does it say velo ye'oved? It says asher lo ye'oved ksiv. Again, we're dealing with very fine points in grammar and syntax. So Rabbi Yoshia says that I know that the pasuk is not limited to future prohibition, because it doesn't say velo ye'oved. The pasuk says asher lo ye'oved, meaning even in the past it wasn't cultivated. Rabbi Yonasan, he is not bothered by the past. Miksiv asher lo ne'evad. Had it said asher lo ne'evad, that would have been very clearly a reference to it never having been in the past cultivated. But it doesn't say that. So therefore the Torah objection is only regarding the future. Rabbi Yoshia's response, asher, that word asher, l'sha'ovar mashma. It has a past tense implication. For Rabbi Yonasan, asher ribuihu. The word asher has a role. It comes to include other avodos besides zriya, besides planting, but it's not a reference to the past. Umuter lisrok sham pishtonu l'nakish avonim. The Mishnah said that the place that the egla rufa is processed is mutter for one to comb flax, which is a process leading up to the production of linens, and to chisel stones. Tonu Rabbanan. Asher lo ye'oved bo velo yizoreah. The Nachal Eson is described as a place that, as we said, not to be ye'oved bo and not to be planted. Ein li elazriya. From the pasuk, I see only planting as being restricted. Shavarus minayin. How do I know to prohibit other avodos in that area? Talmud lomar asher lo ye'oved bo mikomoko. When you read the words asher lo ye'oved, even before you get to the word yizoreah, that ye'oved means anything. Im kain ma talmud lomar v'lo yizoreah. So if we're including all work done on that site, then why does the pasuk specify the prohibition of planting? Lomar loch. It tells me this example to serve as a basis, as an archetype. Ma zriya miuchedes shi begufa shel karka. Just like zriya is unique in that it's something that's done within the ground itself, not on the surface of the ground, but you dig into the ground to deposit the seed or the sapling. Af kol shi begufa shel karka. So to any other activity that has that characteristic, that would be prohibited. However, yotza, to the exclusion of srikas pishtan v'nikur avonim, the combing of flax or the chiseling of stone, she'enon begufa shel karka. It's not something you do in the ground itself. You're doing it on the surface, on top. You're sitting there with a table and with implements, and you're doing these activities, but they're not like planting in the sense it's not begufa shel karka. The Gemara asks again a similar style of questioning that we saw before with the klalu prat question. V'yema asher lo ye'oved bo klal. that is a general statement that it's a place that shall not have any work done there. And velo yizorea prat, that's a specific example. Klal prat ein b'chal u'mashe b'prat. Let me say that you have a general followed by a specific, and therefore the only thing that would be derived from here is zriya in midi achrino lo. Planting is that which is prohibited, but not other activities, even if they are in the ground. Asher ribuyhu. The word asher, and this we saw above. Rav Yehonasan made reference to this, that the word asher is an inclusive or inclusionary expression to tell me not to limit the prohibition to planting alone. Ziknei ha'ir rochatzin yadeim v'chulei. The elders of the city closest to the victim wash their hands. Ton rabbanon. The pasuk says v'chol ziknei ha'ir hahi hakroivim el hachalol. The elders of the city closest to the corpse, yirchatzu es yadeim al ho'eglo harufa v'nachal. They wash their hands and over the calf whose neck was broken there in the ravine. She'ein talmud lomer ho'arufa. There isn't any seeming necessity of having the word ho'arufa. It could have simply said es yadeim al ho'eglo, and I know that it's a reference to the egla arufa. Why does the Torah add that word over here? Answer: Al mokoim arifasa shel egla. The pasuk is telling me that the washing of the hands is to be done on the spot where the egel's neck was broken. The pasuk says v'onu v'omru yodenu lo shavchu es hadam hazeh v'einenu lo ro'u. The sages of the city declare, we did not murder this person and our eyes did not see. Well, if you're going to leave the pasuk in its simple translation form, it's kind of mystifying. V'chi'al libenu also shebeis in shofrim domu. Would you have thought that the court are murderers? Ela lo ba liyodenu. When they say yodenu lo shofchus adam, it means as follows, that this victim is not, they declare that he did not come to us, uprachanuhu below mazonos, and we let him go on his trip, this as a wayfarer without any food. Of course, if anyone would have come to us and they were travelers, we wouldn't let them go without giving them food. Letting a person go on a trip without food is an ingredient for disaster. Person who's going to find himself hungry on the road, sees other people with food walking by, he might very well attack them to rob them of their food, and the people will defend themselves and kill this guy who's trying to attack them. That would be background for a murder to take place. So the sages of the community are declaring, we didn't allow a situation like that to arise, where a wayfarer would have come by us and let him go without food. V'lo ro'inuhu v'nachnu below levion. When they say v'einenu lo ro, they're declaring that we didn't let him go on the road without any accompaniment. Levia is to accompany someone. Tanya, and here we have a discussion that's introduced on the side by a Nosay topic heading. To accompany travelers. The Gemara. Tanya, Hoya Rabbi Meir Omer Koifin Lilavia. We force accompaniment. That means if someone is hosting a guest, and the guest is about to depart, and the host doesn't want to accompany his guest out, we force him to accompany his guest out. Later, the Gemara will deal with how far do you have to go, but we're dealing with the general idea of accompanying a person. Sheschar halavia ein lo shiur. The reward for accompanying someone has no limit. Shenemar, and here we are presented with a biblical account from the book of Judges, from Sefer Shoftim, where in the Perek Aleph of Sefer Shoftim, there's a description of the Jewish people during the period of conquest of the land of Israel, and the pasuk opens up with we'll say some military scouts that are approaching a city, and they don't know it seems to be a walled, a fortified city, and they want these scouts of the Jewish army want to know where is the entrance. And it says in the pasuk, Shene'amar, Vayiru ha'shochim ish yotzim min ha'ir, the shomrim, the scouts, the guards, the scouts, the Jewish military people, saw a man exiting the city that they were interested in capturing. So they saw a man exiting the city. Vayomru lo, they said to him, Hareinu no es mevo ha'ir, ve'asinu imcho chesed. Show us how to get into the city, and we'll return your kindness. We'll do with you kindness. Uksiv, and the pasuk says, "Vayareim es mevo ha'ir." Now we've underlined Vayareim, which we'll figure more prominently later in the Gemara. Translated, it means he showed them the entrance to the city. Uma chesed asu imo. Well, for in exchange for his showing them the entrance to the city, what favor did they do for him? Shekol Osir, that city, Hargu Lefi Chorav, they were murdered by sword. This was during the conquest of the land of Israel. I have to emphasize God's instructions to the Jewish people. God who created the world and created all of mankind within it. Well, he's the boss, and he can tell us what to do. And God's divine commandment to conquer the land includes his command to kill the inhabitants. And that's what happened in that city. The oisu ho'ish, and that man, umishpachto, and his family, sholchu, they released them, they let them go free. The pasuk says regarding that man, vayelech ho'ish eretz hachitim, vayiven ir vayikro shmo luz, he shmo ad hayom hazeh. And that man went to the land of the Chitim, and he built a city, calling it by the name Luz, and that's its name to this day. Tanya, he Luz shitzoivin bo tcheles. Luz was a city of fame, the city in which the tcheles, which is a dye that's that you find, I guess most common association is with tzitzis. You have tcheles with regard to the Beis Hamikdash and the clothing of the Kohanim. So tcheles figures in a number of areas of halacha. The dyeing of fabrics with tcheles took place there in Luz. He Luz sheba sancherev v'lo bilbala. It's this very same Luz that later on King Sancherev, the emperor of the Assyrian Empire of Ashur, came, and Sancherev's method of conquest involved population redistribution, and that's Bilbala means to mix up. He would take people from one land and relocate them in another land. Sancherev, when he came to Luz, lo Bilbala, he didn't transfer that population. Nebuchadnezzar came v'lo echriva. He came and destroyed much of Israel, but not Luz. V'af malach hamoves ein lo reshus la'avor ba. Even the angel of death doesn't have permission to go into that city. Well, so the people from Luz never die. Elo zekenim sheba, people of old age in Luz, bisman shedaitan kotzalem, when they're, without the literal translation, means when they get sick of living, yoitzin chutz l'choim of a mason, they walk out of the walls of Luz, and there they die. V'halo dvorim kal v'chomer. And from this we can apply kal v'chomer logic, and you'll see what the conclusion is. Uma knani zeh. That's a reference to the man that showed the Jewish scouts the way into the town. This Canaanite individual, shelo diber b'fiv v'lo holach b'raglov, he didn't say a word, he didn't walk with them to show them the entrance. Goram, he caused hatsololo l'zaro asof kol hadoros, for he caused himself, his own salvation, and his descendants till the end of time. And as we saw, he went and built up Luz and all of the incredible descriptions of Luz, which was the city in which he and his descendants lived. What an amazing salvation. And all of that was because he helped by with very little action. Just by Yareim, we said before, he showed them. He didn't speak, he didn't walk with them. Misha Levia Baraglov, someone who does something with his feet, who accompanies someone with his feet. He does chesed with his feet by walking with them. Alachas kama v'kama, when you accompany your guest out, all the more so, you can imagine what the schar, what the reward would be. We said before, you can see we have arrows to the side. He showed them. How did he show them? Made some kind of, he cringed his mouth. He in the direction of where the entrance is, he made some type of like a mouth gesture. And Rabbi Yochanan be'etzbo'o hero lohem, he showed them with his finger. Tanya Kavasi Rabbi Yochanan, we have a Tanaic source supporting Rabbi Yochanan's approach. B'shvil sheknan is a hero be'etzbo'oi. He showed them with his finger. Goram atzolo lo zaro atzov kolados. He caused salvation for himself and his descendants till the end of generations. I'm sure that there is more depth to this than simply seeing the word vayareim and asking how did he show them. After all is said and done, the Chazal are not necessarily interested in simply translating words and what's their superficial meaning. In order to preoccupy the greats like Chizkiah and Rabbi Yochanan and then bring a Tanaic source to support it, there must be some deeper story taking place over here. But we will leave that for some further analysis on another occasion. We have a double underlining scheme, and it's presented on the side under the Mivneh heading, Meimros Shel Rabbi Shua ben Levi ben Nosay Hanal, comments made by Rabbi Shua ben Levi regarding the above-mentioned topic of accompaniment. Omar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Hamahalich Baderech, V'ein lo levia, a person is walking on the road and he has no one accompanying him. Yasok b'Torah, should occupy himself with Torah study. Shenemar, regarding Torah, Mishlei, this is a pasuk from Mishlei, the book of Proverbs, and it's understood that the book of Proverbs contains a lot of analogies that revolve around the study of Torah. So it says, Ki livyas chein heim l'roshecha v'anokim l'gagroisecha. The livyas is the accompanied. Haim is a reference to Divrei Torah. Divrei Torah is a gracious accompaniment. Continuing in the Gemara, V'yomer Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, b'shvil arba o psios sheliva paro l'Avram, in reward for or I should say in as a result of it's not a reward that we're going to see here, but as a result of the 4 steps that Paro in the time of Avram accompanied Avram. Shenemar, the pasuk says, "Vayetzav olav Paro anoshim, vayishalchu oisoi ve'esishtoi ve'eskol asher lo." Pasuk describes Avraham departing from his sojourn with Paro, and Paro instructed men to go with him and with Sarah and with all those that were together with Avram. In short, accompaniment. And what resulted from Paro's concern with Avram and providing him with 4 steps of accompaniment? Nishtabe bevonov arba meyas shana. Avram's descendants, namely the Jewish people, during their exile in Egypt, were enslaved for 400 years. Notice the 4 steps, 400, resulting in 400 years of Paro having, we'll say, the upper hand over Avram's descendants. Shenemar, v'avdum, v'inu oisam arba meyos shana. Here the pasuk spells out the 400 years. Omar Yehuda, Omar Rav, kol hamalaves chavero arba amois be'ir eino nizok. Anyone who accompanies his friend 4 amos, 2 meters in town, the person, the traveler, will not experience damage. He'll be saved, protected. Ravina alve l'Rava bar Yitzchok dalet amos be'ir. Ravina accompanied Rava, the son of Yitzchok, 4 amos in town. Motu liyode hazekov itzel. Some threatening event, experience presented itself to Rava, and he was saved. As we indicated before, this Gemara too seems to have a certain additional element of understanding. 4 amos and within the city, Arbamas Be'ir, how in the world does that serve as protection for someone who's going on the way? So there is something deeper than the simple translation that we are presenting. Nevertheless, we go on in the Gemara. First, we look at the side. We have a Nosay, we call Hemshech, a continuation. Shiurim shonim, different dimensions, different sizes, or different distances. Bekama boy lelavos, how much must one accompany? Tonu Rabbanan, Harav letalmid, a teacher accompanying his student, ad ibura shel ir, until the outer, say, boundary of the city. Ibura shel ir is a technical term referring to 70 2/3 amos beyond the last house of the city. So the teacher should accompany a student that's going to go on his way till that point. Chaver lechaver, one friend to another, ad tchum Shabbos. Tchum Shabbos is a distance of 2,000 amos beyond the city's boundary. Talmid l'Rav, ein lo shiur. A student, with regard to a Rav, if a Rav is visiting a student, the rabbi is visiting the student, and the rabbi is going to go on the way, so the expression in the source is ein lo shiur, there's no amount. Sounds like there's no limit. But yet, the Gemara asks, well, how much? And if the student lives in New York, and the Rav is going to be traveling from New York to Tokyo, does that mean the student has to accompany the Rav to Tokyo? So how far? Omar Rav Sheshes ad parsa. Distance of parsa. Parsa is 4 mil. 4 mil is approximately 4 kilometers. Velo amoran elo raboi she'eno muvhok. This this distance is regarding a teacher, but not your main teacher. Avol rabo muvhok shloisha parsos. If the Rav that was visiting you and is now going on his way, you must accompany him 3 parsa, which will be 3 times 4 mil, 12 kilometers. We have diamonds that highlight shnei maisim shel livui, as we indicate on the side of the Gemara. 2 incidents, 2 stories. Rav Kahana alvei the Rav Simi bar Ashimi Pumnara ad beit Sinisa de Bovel. Rav Kahana accompanied Rav Simi from Pumnara, name of a place, until a location called Beit Sinisa de Bovel. The word Sinisa is a word associated with a palm tree. Kimotu Hasam, when they got there, Omar lay, so he said to him, Vaday de Amrisu, is it true that which you say, Hani Sinisa de Bovel Mishnei Odom HaRishon Isnu? These palms of Bovel have been from around since the time of Odom HaRishon? Omar lei, so he answered, Ad Kartan Milsa Diom Rav Yossi Bar Chanina. In your question to me, you've reminded me of something that Rav Yossi Bar Chanina said. My dichtiv beretz lo ovar bo ish velo yoshav odom sham. The pasuk says a land, a region in which no man ever crossed and no man ever dwelt there. The order of the pasuk is a little bit odd. V'chi me'achar shelo ovar. If it's a land region that no man ever even walked there, hechan yoshav. So where would he come to even dwell? Ella, the understanding of the pasuk is as follows: Eretz shegozer aleh Odom harishon liyishuv nisyashva. A land region that Adam ruled shall be inhabited, became inhabited by people, populated by people. Eretz shelo gozer aleh Odom harishon lo nisyashva. Land regions where Odom harishon did not rule that it shall be populated, it would remain unpopulated. And Rashi explains that the reference to these palms is that this area was an area that Adam never ruled should be populated by people, only by palms. Rav Mordechai alvei l'Rav Ashi mehagronya v'ad bei kifi v'amri la. Another version is ad bei dura. Rav Mordechai accompanied Rav Ashi from these places. These were known places in the time of the Gemara, so the people of the Gemara could certainly appreciate the distances. Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Meir, Kol she'eino melavu mislava ki lishoifech domim. Anyone who doesn't accompany others and doesn't allow himself to be accompanied is as if he is shedding blood. That serves as the opening for the Gemara. The topic heading on the side, the Nosay reads, Elisha, the Anshe Yericho, Elisha the prophet, and the people of Yericho. If you open up the Tanakh, and we recommend looking at the book of Kings, Kings 2, Melachim Beis, Perek Beis, chapter 2, Psukim Tezvav through Chafei, Psukim verses 15 through 25, which takes you to the end of the Perek. There you will see a story involving the townspeople of Yericho suffering from a bitter water supply, and Elisha performs a miracle, sweetening the waters for the people of Yericho. We can point out that when the city was suffering from bitter waters, there was a small segment of the population that was gainfully employed in a lucrative occupation of supplying water. We'll say bottled water, jugged water. With Elisha's miracle, so they lost their income. They have to go find a new job. That's by way of background. So Rabbi Meir just taught us that people who go on the road unaccompanied are, if they don't accompany others or don't allow themselves to be accompanied, it's tantamount to shedding blood. Shilmole livu anshi Yericho Elisha, had the townsfolk of Yericho accompanied Elisha on his way, then logira dubim latinoikas. Elisha would have had no reason to arouse the bears to kill the vagrant youth that started to taunt him. From the context of the Gemara, had Elisha been accompanied by a party of people, so these vagrants wouldn't have come to taunt Elisha in the first place. But because Elisha was alone, they felt they can tell him a thing or two, and these, we'll see, are the people whose livelihood was just curtailed. The whole story wouldn't have come up had they, Anshe Yericho, accompanied Elisha. Shenemar. And you'll see the Gemara gives you the background. Vayal mishon beisel v'hu ola baderech. Elisha departed from Yericho after rendering the miracle, and he was on the road. V'norim ketanim yotzu min haderech v'yiskalsubo. And these youthful individuals, the Gemara will analyze the expression norim ketanim. There's actually a seeming contradiction in that phrase. Norim is a teenager, a young person. Ketanim means toddlers, minors. So these Norim Tanim, Yotzim and Ader V'Yiskalsubo, they started to degrade him, to taunt him. Vayomru lo alei kereach, alei kereach. Now, literally translated means, come up, all bald one. The word kirach indicates baldness. Well, baldness is often associated with loss of hair from one's head. However, there's another dimension to this in the Gemara. Omru lo, they were saying to him, alei shekrachto olenu es hamokim. You, come forth, you who ripped out hair that falls out, indicates something fell out. What happened with them? Their parnosa, their income fell away. You caused us to lose our parnosa. While the city's waters were bitter, so we had a lucrative income by supplying them with water. Now you've caused us to lose our income. So that was their taunt to this great man, the prophet of Israel. My unaoram ketanim. As we said, there's terms that Naoram is a certain age that's a little bit older than Ketanim. Ketanim is younger, Naoram is older, so how can they be described as by two contradictory terms? Amr Belazar, Sheminu Orim min hamitzvos. The word Na'ar means they were shaken out, meaning emptied out of mitzvahs. These were people that were wicked. They had no merits to them. And so that as far as the drush is concerned, they're not young people at all. They're people in their middle age. And the Orim Ketanim is a description of the people. They were Minu Orim in HaMitzvahs, Ketanim Shemikatnei Amona. They were people of little faith. Meaning, Rashi says toward the end, 5 lines from the end, I want to show you, they were all upset and incensed over their loss of income. Where's their faith? Where's their amonah, their faith in the Almighty's capacity of providing alternative sources of income? But no, they were ripping into this prophet and cursing him out because he changed the situation, thereby eliminating their current form of income. Tana ne'orim hoyu ubizbezu atzmon kiketanim. The second approach is, in fact, they were youths, but they behaved like infants. They behaved like little kids. Maskif l'Rav Yosef v'dilmo al shem mekomon. The word ne'orim, maybe it's not a description of the people at all, but rather it's a reference to their place of origin. Mi lo ksiv, do we not have a pasuk in which a very similar word appears? It says, V'aram yotzu gedudim vayishbu me'eretz Yisrael ne'ora ketana. It says the Aramites came forth in military troops, and they captured from Israel Na'aro ketana. V'kashilan, we ask, Na'aro ketana, it's a contradiction. A Na'ara is a youthful woman, and a ketana is a minor. V'yomar Rav ketana demin neuron. When it says Na'ara, it means it's a reference to her place where she was from. They captured, in that pasuk with Aram captured a toddler, a child from a place called Neuron, and a person who's called from Neuron is called a Na'ara. So why, in the case of the story with Elisha, when the pasuk says Norim Ketanim Yotzim Min Haderech, why does it not mean children from Neuron? The Gemara answers, Hasam lo meforish mekoma. In the case of Aram and the capture of the girl, it doesn't specify any location in the story. So we can assume that Na'ara is the location from which she was from. Haha, but in the story with Elisha, mefurash mekomon, in the context, you can see, and Rashi says, their place of origin was specified, namely Yericho, and therefore Yericho and not Neuron. Vayifen achra vayireim vayikaleleim b'shem Hashem. The prophet saw these disgraceful people, disgraceful youth possibly, and he cursed them in the name of God. Ma ra'ah, the pasuk says, vayireim. What did he see? You see triangles on the side under our Mivneh heading. You see there Daled Pirushim, there are 4 explanations. Vayireim b'pasuk vayifen achra vayireim. 4 explanations. Omarav Ro'o Mamash. Elisha turned around and he saw them. He looked at them. He gazed upon them, literally. Kidesanya. And when we see in the pasuk that they died, what does his looking upon them have to do with death? The Brisa says, wherever sages cast their eyes in chastisement, in rebuke, they look upon something, O Misa, O Oni, there follows either death or impoverishment. Ushmul Amar Ro'o Shekula Nisabra Bohen Imon B'Yom HaKippurim. Shmuel says that the prophet perceived, he perceived that they were born as a result of their mothers becoming impregnated on Yom Kippur. Intimate relations on Yom Kippur is strictly forbidden. So these people who were taunting the prophet were the products of, called the intimacy that took place on the part of their parents on Yom Kippur. Rabbi Yitzchok Nafcha Omar Bloiris Ro'o Lohen Ke'em Moroyim. He saw that they had a type of haircut. Bloiris is a specific form of haircut. In other Gemaras, it's a case where one's head is shaven around, leaving hair growing out from the middle, which is a practice of idol worshippers. And that's what the prophet saw. He saw them as Emorites, a nation of idol worshippers. Rabbi Yochanan, Omar Ro Shalohois Ben Lichluchis Shel Mitzvah. Rabbi Yochanan, in similar to the explanation we saw above, he saw that they had no lichluchus means freshness, no dampness, no freshness of mitzvah fulfillment. They were dry, they were dried out, they had no mitzvahs. The dilma bizarayu nevu havu, maybe their descendants would have mitzvahs, and in the story we know that the prophet in effect killed them. Fine, they didn't have mitzvahs, but to kill them means they're not going to have any further descendants. Maybe they would have had mitzvahs. Omre belozer lo bom velo bezarom hafsof kol adoros. The Navi perceived that there was no mitzvahs, not in them, not in any of their future generations either. That's something, of course, that a prophet could have the power to perceive. With that, we conclude our shiur for today.
This was a presentation of the Daf Map. We hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to be informed of our other videos. For resources and more information, please visit our website at www.thedafmap.com.